Alrighty, alrighty, alrighty. How are we all tonight? So today's just going to be something... Oh, I'm going to fix my chair. Something a bit shorter, quicker, back to the basics. Just kidding. It's been quite a long and eventful, fun day. As I've got to get to bed at a decent time. So we'll go back to basics, but I'm going to add a little bit of a slight differentiation to them. So the two dragons type I'm going to draw today is a Wyrm dragon, so spelt W-Y-R-M, and a Drake dragon. So the Wyrm dragon is pretty much a snake. So it's a dragon with no wings, no legs, no arms, just the serpent body. Often it can be portrayed as a sea serpent or something that can live in the bottom of a well, you know, supposed to bring water and all that sort of thing. And the Drake dragon is just a wingless dragon. So a wingless western dragon. So 4 legs, 2 front, 2 back, you know, normal tail, and that sort of thing. So we'll go into more detail about the construction, setup, and maybe some different faces. Maybe I could do a difference between an overbite and the underbite jaw. So, first things first, we'll grab a color. We'll grab something bright today. So we'll go into a nice red for a construction. Alright, now I'll make sure I got the right brush in there. Chalk brush, yep. No worries. So the first one we can do is just the snake one. Simple and quick. So for this guy, I'm going to have him kind of wrapped up. So he's kind of sitting in himself. Kind of like one of those snakes you'd see in a basket that have the flutes. So they're being musicalified out of the flutes. So we've got our generic circle or oval for the head. Very interesting there. And then again, as I'm always mentioning, follow through the line. So dragons are very sleek creatures. So if his head's going to come down, you have to follow through the line. Now if he's going to be sitting down on the top of himself, we'll just come through. I'll make him just a tad smaller and bring him up so I can continue his tail just round one more time. So it's kind of just sitting in front of him like that. Alright, so you can see the shapes coming up already. So they're just that long, slender, snake-like construction setup. And then we'll come in with the darker red. So for our dragon head, this time round, I'm going to try and exaggerate the overbite jaw. So you're not going to be able to see his lower jaw that much. Oop, so darken that up a bit more. Have his head come in. Give him a big spike on his nose, much like a rhino, I think. Now, this jaw is going to come in over the top, just like that. Now, the under jaw, because it's going to be so underneath it, you're barely going to see it, so it's just going to be under. Just like that. So it's hidden in a way underneath that upper jaw. Oops. Now I'm going to add in his nostril, his little nostril in here. Just like that. Alright. So, now that we've got that, I'm going to block off his head. Just for the time being, so straight down to follow the body all the way around. Now, I feel the easiest way to make a worm dragon interesting is to add all sorts of things on him. So once we get in here, bring that around, up and behind, just like that. Alright, so we've gone one more around just for the sake of size. Yeah, come in and then back around to the tail in front. Alright, so you've got a stereotypical, pretty much snake with a funny face at the moment. Snake with a funny face. Which we're gonna go back in and just add bits and pieces to make him look much more interesting. So for this guy, I think I'll give him ears for this guy, so he can have. We'll see. Maybe not quite. We'll give him some little. This horn is a little bit large, so maybe just a little. Kind of like a rhino. And then to finish that off, I'm gonna add in horns. So we'll come in. Now, unlike all my other horns that I've drawn come back like this, I'm going to have this guy's come down much like a ram. So it will come around. Just like this. Alright. There we go, like that. Now, instead of just making all of these bones this time, I'm going to make them more scale based. So see how I've got this pattern in here where his scales start? I'm going to keep him going up his horns. So you come around, bringing the curve around, point it at that piece, and going smaller as we go. Oops, that was a little bit too wobbly in there. Keeping those shapes quite similar. I mean, you don't have to, but for this instance, we're going to keep them similar as we come around to the end of it. Now, like I do with the center of the body where the scales are, I'm just going to put a middle line in, so it just gives it a bit more shape. So it just kind of looks a bit more 3D, so it's like kind of like a box. So you've got your box, and it goes like this. So it's kind of just showing this bit in here, really. Alright, so got our little ear in there, which comes in to his big overbite. Alright, and I'm going to see how it works with this one too. So the horn will come in, and I'm just gonna follow through the horn as if it's kind of going down into the front of his mouth. So it goes behind, like part of his nose. Alright, so maybe not that far in. So just on this piece here. Just like. Now, when you chuck in the eye, so generally you just give him a shape of the eye. So I'm going to add a bit more scales to this guy. Whoop. We'll chuck in the shape, the generic shape. Then once you put in the eye, say we're going to just have a glaring face. What you can then do is just add those scales. So just bringing in some little lines. it also allows you to follow in with the lines. So see how his horns are here? Actually, his eye's a little bit high. So that'll then follow in, whoops, and come up his eye. So this horn all the way in and meet up to the top of the head. Now his nose isn't quite in the right spot at this stage. So I'll fix that up. So it would be more on top, just like this. I think because it's part of that horn, and there'd be like a kind of like that. Just stick that in there for now. And so as I was saying, the flow of the scales keeps going in. So it just follows that line all the way to his nose. Now, at this stage, it just kind of looks a bit flat. So you generally also have another set of scales. I'm not going to draw them for this one because he's flat, mostly flat anyways. Actually, I wonder if I can... No, we'll just leave him like that. He can be a broad-nosed dragon. So all dragons are different, so it doesn't matter if his nose is a little bit fat, a little bit large. So there'd be middle scales, and then on the other side, which I might actually take that out and just end it at the eye, like that, for the moment. And then be a center set over his forehead, kind of like the middle of your face. And then we come in with the horns on the other side of his head, which I'll finish out in a moment. But because he's quite a plain dragon, we'll add a few more horns to him. So the middle ones will come out. Down him like this. I'm going to add a bit of a plate to him so they kind of keep him with that theme of having scales as his horns instead of bones. Now this part in here would be the front of his nose. And then it will kind of come in with an extra. That's not really looking alright, but that's alright. That'll do for us for now. Alright, so we have that one in there. Just bring those there. Actually, what I might do is take away this. So have it, instead of, because he's got this up here, we won't worry too much about anything extra. So it just comes straight out to his ear instead of all this extra bits. Like that. Alright, back to our... Now those spikes aren't quite working for me very well. Excuse me. So, I'm going to give them a little bit more of a hook, I think. Alright, so I'll take these out. Like that. And come up and out like this. Just so, I guess, it gives it a bit more decoration. Come out. Follow him down. Now I'm gonna start his jaw, like his neck piece, I guess, in here more this time. And add some spikes to his chin. And we'll see how we go if we add some. No, you won't worry about that for this time round. And if you like, you can continue those spikes down the back, which I might just in there. Now, with his plates, they would be really the most exciting part of him, aside from his head. So you got to make him look quite interesting. So for this guy, I'm going to over-exaggerate a bit. I'm going to have them slightly hanging off him more down here. So we'll start flat. So we'll get the shape in first. So this is our generic shape for the middle of his body. We'll disappear it in there. Now, the start will be flat just because it's under him. And then it'll start going down. And as this happens, they'll come out more like this. So keep going in there. Now, it's not that they're getting smaller, it's that they're going, oopsie daisies, that was an accident. They're disappearing under his body. Because his body's twisted, his scales would not go flat. So his belly is facing up to the sky, and then it goes in under him. Now, I'm also going to flick these out a little. So now I've got the generic shape of the scales. We're going to come out just on the end. Now again, any customization is welcome with any sort of dragon. They can have fur, they can have scales, plain plates in the middle, or no plates at all if you like. Alright, and then, yeah, that's nice. Now I'm going to add in little pieces in between the scales here. I just feel like it knits them together nicely. And I'm pretty certain that if you have these pieces as well, it kind of sets you up to build more scales. So if you were interested, you could probably come in like this, and then it will come and like keep building those out. So because it's a little bit time consuming drawing all the scales, we won't worry about for the moment. Maybe another video will go into all the scales and lots of things we can do with dragons. Lots and lots and lots of things. Alright. So, what else can we do with you? What else? I'll follow your body around and see if we get any ideas. We'll leave a little bit of a line so it's like he's, you know, all curled up in there. Goes around, round, around, around, and under, and on top. Now, because I've got him quite platy, I'm going to give him a diamond shaped tail just to add to that sharpness that I've put onto him. Now I'm going to that, I'm going to come out his tail a little bit longer and pointier. And so we can either go Oh, this is pretty good. Out like this, and then like that. So it generally doesn't matter how large your tail is. I guess it depends on what you want your dragon to use with. So for instance, he could use his scales for blocking attacks as well as his tail, and then his tail for slicing things. So perhaps he's got like a blade on the rim of his tail, maybe like a silver rim. So he could be a silver, that's an idea. We could have silver on the outsides of all of his plates. So primarily just really a grey, shimmery grey dragon, very metal based in his armor. Alright. Now we've got to give you something on this piece here. Because it's looking a little bit empty. Guess we could bring in the scales again. Because his back goes flat. So you should be able to see the... Oh, whoops. Not the scales, the spikes. Maybe not. We'll go in there. That looks alright. Nah, we'll take those out. Alright. Maybe we could, but we might change the size type of spike. So it could come in and then join a plate. So it's plated in the center. So this part of the spike would be part of a plate on his back. Like that. So then all this is just pretty much metal. It's just adding more detail in there. Up. We're a little bit far. And then we can always fix up the shapes when we get into that line. Now, because it's coming in, oops, it'll disappear for a moment because it's not flat, but it's not like you can see it very well. And then we'll go in and it slowly comes back out so that you can see it. Like this. And then I've kind of misjudged the size, so I might bring those bigger when we get back into this. Out and up. Trying to stick with the same flow. Oh, so I'll make that a little bit larger. Up, out, and down. So we're just keeping this like this. I mean, who knows? Maybe his scales that just disappear up in his neck and the rest of his body is just armor. Because he's an armored worm. And that's okay. There we go. Alright, and we're going to have to bring in that shape in there. So it looks really... We'll have to get rid of this in here. And then keep on with the shape. All the way through. Slowly bringing it in for when you hit that tail. Alright, and then add that line of shape to shape it in. Like that. Alright. So, I think we'll leave him like that. So, because we've still got to do our Drake Dragon. So, once we've done that, we can grab in a black if we like. Now, I feel like for the metal, his nose is a little bit square. So English. What I'm gonna do is change it up a bit when I go in with the black. Alright, so I go black. Point it out here. And zoom in. So we're gonna keep this to possibly make it a bit more edged like those spikes. Now I'll draw his eyebrow and his horns first. I'll chuck that smoothing up a little. Oop, that one's gone a bit funny. So rub that out and we'll come in like that. And softens out as it gets over his eyes. It's kind of acting like an eyebrow of sorts. And I'm going to bring his ear a bit more down. Just like that. Alright, now when I come in here, I'm going to come in and put it more of a point. Just like that. And because I want to keep this sort of a thing in there, so I'll come in and add that on there. And we'll bring in that extra wobbliness. And that way you can also add in his nostril. It's a little bit like that. And then we can add in our drawer, which is hidden quite under that big top drawer. And if we like our little spikes that are chilling underneath there. Alright. So he's looking a bit more sharp, per se. Add in that, pardon me, that eye. And bring in the scales around his, his eye. Just like that. And then you can generally come in and just add in more of those plates that you've got down the body. Because then it kind of suits that feel, that you're going for. And then add that line. And there. So there we go, like just like that. And then we can bring in our spines. I'm going to add another line on top. Much like razor sharps. Oops, we went a little bit far on that one. So maybe he's a worm dragon that likes to burrow. So all the spikes and thorns and things help him kind of drill into the ground. So if that's another thing to think about when you're doing your dragons, is what your dragon's going to be doing. So is it a water dragon, or is it a flying dragon, or just ground, and even element? That all can go into the look and the shape of a dragon. Alright, so I'm going to come in and actually exaggerate that so it gives it more sharpness. So even though my lines are still a little bit soft, it's still, by doing these points, gives him quite a sharp edge. Oops, that's a bit too much. Finish it off there. Just like that. And then we got this little midpoint line that comes down. Comes down in here, just like that. Alrighty. So already we've got that. It's much sharper than what we had here. So what we had here, his nose is a bit too square for the razorness, like the razor sharp feeling we've put on the rest of him. So we just change it up and put more of a point. Like I could even lower this and bring it more up so it follows that. But just for this example, I'll leave it as is. Alright, so I'll come down with his neck now. So we'll go down. Just following it through. It goes flick up. A bit more sharp in that one, I think. So down and up, keeping to the already existing feel. Down and up. And up. So much like armor, so it's like overlapping, so it protects him from anybody who sorts to destroy him. Now I'll try and keep these fat because it's not that they're going smaller, it's that they're going under him. So it's skinny, not just like that. Alright. Now we'll add in those extra pieces. That one. So your worm dragons could also fly if you like. This one's primarily ground, like living in the ground, burrowing, drilling through stone and all that. But you could make a flying one with fur and, oops, make it a lot more friendly. So here I'm just exaggerating that it looks a lot like armor, so metal, by adding these extra lines that exaggerate what kind of a feel you want it to look like. I mean, if you like, you could have a candy dragon, a fairy floss dragon made out of fairy floss, lollipops, even bubbles. I have drawn a dragon made out of bubbles before. It's very, very interesting. It was literally just bubbles in the shape of a dragon. But it's still fun, you know, you can turn your dragons into anything. Alright, we'll just finish in here quickly. And that is good timing on my part. Alright, so almost anyways, we've got to quickly go in and do the rest of him. Now what I will do, because it's kind of centering, is as it centers, bring in a center. That's a bit wobbly, but that's okay. Yeah, that'll have to do for the moment. So we don't want to go too long, you know. Razor sharp. Now for this one, as these spikes up here, I'm not going to finish it. So it just kind of adds to that. So it's like that. That piece of the armor is part of his spine. Or the spine is part of the armor. Just adding extra lines to insinuate the shape as we go along. Oops, so we might have to. Now, I'm just trying to keep it as even as I can. So, because the first one ends at the point of this diamond, I'm trying to make them all end at those diamonds, even if it looks like a little bit funny. Oh, we're going to have a little bit of experience some lag. Poor computer's overheating. The last couple of days has been really hot out here. Good old Australian heat. Alrighty. We good? Alright, so we're gonna have a little, hopefully we come back from this. Alright, come on, please, please, please come back. And so finally got myself a little job at a little newsagent. Heaps of fun. And hopefully, oh, we're back now. I can start saving for a new computer or something like that. Among always buying, you know, books and all that. Alright, so this one. Now, because the spine's gone more behind, we're gonna completely close that off. Although it looks nicer if I just end it there, I think. Yeah, we'll leave it like that. Keep going around, trying to, while we have those diamond pieces in the middle, stick into the way with the pattern. Pattern is also very important. So if you do spines or scales, if you start a pattern, try and keep it as you go along. It just gives the dragon more of a cleaner look, I suppose. And then once your pattern ends, you can generally go in and just keep going as if just as if we're going. Nice little skills. As we come around, just take out pieces if you've drawn a little bit too much. Just like that. Alright, so this is the edge bit, so I'm going to come in, fill it out there. Now, because it's centering out a little bit, we're going to bring in more of those lines that exaggerate that shape. So because we're coming around and we've got the rest of the body here, I'm going to come in like that. So it just follows that wavy, wavy pattern that we started with. Now, for you guys out there who have a little bit more time on your hands, you could keep adding in those scales, no, the spines, and just keep following the body with those spines as well. So in this case, because the spines are coming down here, if we had more time, they would go flat out up, straight up, and then kind of like a little slope. So it would kind of come in like this for a little bit. Because you've got to follow that nice line in there. So to show that that's the center, I'll do that, and then finish in those in there. So the scales here, oh no, we should keep going there, would be behind him. So we come out. Now for the purpose of this and time saving, I'm not going to add any more underbelly scales, but because he comes around, see if you follow those spikes, they go around this way. So this one, they'll go behind him, so all the way behind here, and start showing themselves under this piece in here. So these pieces here would go in this tiny piece of scale set here. Now, just for the sake of our time, I'll just continue this squiggly pattern. Just like that, and give it that line shape, and then bring in this tail. Nice and, oh, maybe not that. It's kind of looking a bit odded out. So in, and then the sharpness of the blade, or his tail, because this guy's going to have a sharp tail. And then, like his plates, we're going to show a little bit of spike in here. So I'd imagine that the middle of this would be black or dark grey, and those outside pieces would be the blade itself, so they would be the silver. Like this. And now come in. Now see how instead of doing it flat, so like this-ish, I've kind of elevated that, so it just kind of it gives his body more shape. So because he's a round creature, his scales would match his body. So to keep that in, shrinking it up slowly as we hit his tail. Like that. And then again, our little line that shows the movement or the shape. Like this. Now that middle bit's a little bit boring, just because you don't have time to go back and add in all those spikes. But, oh, we gotta add in that in there like that. Now, there's our average old worm dragon. I'll color him in and as basics colors, I think. So now we've got our worm, we can come in and do our drake. So just quick and simple this time around. Nothing too fancy, don't want to go too long. Spent a lot of time on this guy. So I think I'll make our drake sort of strong legs, because he'd be maybe like a race type dragon, so he'd be quite a bit smaller than this guy over here. So to start off, I'm not going to bother with changing brushes. It doesn't really matter all too much. I mean, if you want to change stuff, you can probably change the opacity a little bit so that when you go over, you can like exaggerate pieces like that. Alright, so a little head, little nose, And then again with the construction, so he will come out, because I'm going to make him long and sleek, I'm going to come in, not as long as an Eastern Dragon, and I'm on that separate layer, so it's alright to draw over the top of this guy. So I'm going to have his tail straight out, as if he's having a bit of a run. I might try and do that with his feet as well. So in this case, if we're going to make him do a bit of a run, we will pull his head down. Oop. And straighten that out. So he's stretched out. Yeah. It's looking a tad bit funny because we've done stuff to him. But yeah, so the head will be like stretched out neck, his arm, and then his tail. Now, I suppose most running dragons would have one foot forward, one foot back. So you'd have one quite far back. And actually, I might have to look up. If you're unsure about poses for things, just chuck them up on the internet, you know. And if you can't find a reference for a Drake Dragon, for example, running, there's always other animals you can use. So like a horse running. There we have it. All right. Or a cat even, because their limbs have a very similar thing about them. Right, so we've got this one coming down and straight forward like this. Then the other one in front is a little bit back. Elbow's a little bit lower and it's more closer to the ground. See if he's pushing off the ground. Now the back in here comes back where his knee be and like, oops, like this. And then the one after that kind of just comes in behind it. Kind of like he's just pushed off these legs and he's propelled himself forward. But again, dragons could have very similar shapes to that of generic animals. Four-legged animals, really. Alright, so our generic shape at the moment. So this one, darken that up, making that in. We'll try and make his underjaw just a little bit bigger than his upper jaw. So I'm going to give him quite a flat face this time round. Now his big jaw is going to come up as if it's kind of engulfed it. Like that. So it looks like his nose is kind of going into his mouth there. And you could add pieces in there like... Actually, it would more be generically up. And then his eye would go in there. Maybe a bit more facing front. Like that. Now, this guy would come in, bring his body and up into his leg. Follow the flow of his head all the way into his shoulder. And nice strong booty. All the booty. Now this booty, oh, I forgot to lower this. That's okay. There we go. The booty will generally come in and join with that back leg. Like, oops, random line. Which comes in and then his foot would say be a little bit like this. because he's pushed off and his ankle. Yeah. Now he would probably have it a bit more further back, but that's alright for this time round. Just showing you quick. Nice pointed feet because he's, you know, just giving a bit of a push. But maybe not that short because this one's quite long there. So we're going to come in. Because then comes in like this. Now this one, so we've got this. Now either leg's fine, but I'm going to have this front leg, the one that's kind of pushing off the ground. So it comes out. Now I'm going to have it flat on the ground. And point his toes. And then this arm would just come in. Oop, having a few issues at the moment. So excusez-moi. Alright. Alright, elbow. So this one's just a little bit long, so I'm gonna finish it up here instead. So his claw, if he had there, his little other claw. Very simple at the moment. Now I've got to make his head a bit bigger because his head's a little bit small compared to his booty anyways. So I'm gonna shrink in that. And bring his tail straight out because often with animals with tails that are quite large, they use their tails for balance. Alright, now his head here, it's looking a bit tiny. You could have that if you like, but my little dude's gonna have it a bit, oh, maybe not that big. There we go. Now, he's on a little bit of a funny angle, so he literally looks like he's doing a funny little bit jumpy thing. So I'm gonna give him a bit of a tilt, so he looks like he's pushing off. We'll get rid of that. So a little Drake having a push off and a run. So then we can bring in these horns, just simple ones this time, not that too fancy. I'm going to add in a second and a third pair in there just to join in with his jaw. Now his eyes looking a bit weird, but that's okay. We're just gonna... He's looking angry. That's okay too. Alright, and then down, 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 down. Now, to make him interesting, I'm going to chuck in some spikes on his butt. Like this. Maybe like echidna spikes. Or fluff if you like. And some a spike or two on his elbows. Because perhaps if he's running, he's gonna... Maybe if he's in a race or something, he can sideswipe them. So we'll come in. Alright, so I'm not gonna fancy this guy up too much. Just because I want to show you some general coloring in this one. So our generic Drake, so our wingless dragon just with his 4 legs that he's pushing off. And then this little guy over here, who is our silver worm, which I'm going to come in And color in just a tad if I can. So we're going to come in and we'll go more of a black for the middle of this. So black is a pretty popular silver color, I believe. Tuck it in these tiny. Will we on a different layer? Yes, we are. Good, good, good. Make sure you're always on a different layer to start. And then when you go back, or if you do the line shading technique, you can just go over the top of it, and that's okay too. Alright. Now I'll pull in this grey, this dark silvery grey for this, and the one, all of these scales down his back, I believe. So, just like this. Keep to maybe, if you're going to go colors and you want it like a ground dragon, always keep to like earthly colors. Oh no, I didn't go a line in there. And my fellow is out. There we go, that's better. Much better. Oh, don't have my bucket tool. Bucket, come here, bucket. You're a bucket head. The bucket tool is a bucket head. Alright, keep on going round and round and round and round. Oh. Alright, so that's our dark silver. Now, I might actually chuck in his face as that dark silver as well. Oh. Just like that. Oh my gosh, glitching out. Grabbed it the wrong way. That's alright. Now, for this top piece, I'm going to make it a tiny bit lighter. And it goes down. Just different, doing different in color. Like, you don't want to just all the same silver. Like, just get a little bit boring after a while. Then for his horn, I'm going to make it lighter again. Maybe a bit more lighter. Just like that. Now, for these plates, I'm going to make the middle of them quite light. Just like this. Alright. Now I'm going to go a little bit darker. Again, just to go in and do these lines. And just like that. So, I might even do another episode primarily for a Drake Dragon later on. Just so I can show some different things on it in more detail, I think. Rather than just a sketch. But we'll see how we go. And if we get any suggestions on types of dragons, perhaps, we can go in and do that as well. Because if anyone at all, anyone anywhere has any dragon type suggestions, you know, sea dragons, earth dragons, ice dragons, even electric dragons, you know, any dragons at all, send me a message and I will give my best tutorial. Okay, so I forgot in there, so we'll make it a tiny bit darker because it's in him. It's like his part of his body in there. Now his underjaw here, tiny bit darker as well because it's underneath his jaw. Oh, I got some line issues in there. Now I'm going to do these under chin spikes, the same color as his main spike. His nose, the same color as this. His ear, probably lighter. And his eye, a little bit darker. Just so it shapes it. Now, for this instance, I'm just going to give him a blue eye. I guess because he feels earthy, so earthy would be the browns and oranges. So in that case, the complementary color is blue. So nice and bright. I'm going to go on top of it because I always love doing this trick. Literally like a little circle and a little line. It just gives that dragon a bit more oomph to his face. Oh, and we've got the rim, so because it's more metal plated, we'll do it this lighter silver. Alright. So, there we go. Now, I'm going to do a quick highlight. Just to add, to show his metal. Like, nothing too fancy. Nothing too fancy at all. In here, a bit lighter. Now, we're going to have our little bit in here. So come in. A highlight will generally show the highest part of the dragon, so I guess where that curve comes in like that. There we go. And then this part, the highlight would be this top rim piece in here. Now, just to even it out, I'm gonna do this trick where I just tab it all out. Still bright in the center, but it's nice and soft. And then once done this, what I'm gonna do is add another bright to the middle, like a light. Whoop. Because that now exaggerates it even more. Same with his face in there, just a little bit of highlight. Alright, so click on that one, grab it lighter, nice and light. I'm gonna go thinner, just because pieces of him. The highest pieces. And then come in and just try and even it out. There we go. Now, silvers generally have a lot more white in their shine. So, what you could also do in this instance is just do one side of that light. And then when you come into the more white, do like a thin line, I find. Just a thin little... thin line, just following your light source. Where your light is anyways. Now this one comes up because it folds out, so we'll keep it going around. And this one's light source is just plain old and simple on top. So we'll just follow that up around the top here. Just like that. Now, putting darks in there will also make it quite more powerful. So just a little bit of an example. I think later on, if I get the time in between my Spyro and working now, I'll try and come back and finish this guy because I quite like him. Maybe make him a print for sale or something like that. If anyone is interested, that is. Could just chuck him on Redbubble too. Although Redbubble doesn't like these as prints for some reason because it's 1920 by 1080 is too small for Redbubble as a print. It can be a sticker, just not a print. We shall see how we go. In there, adding more and more and more. Tiny bit darker just to show you what I mean. The darker your darks, the more brighter your highlights will come out. So if we come in here, say for example, all the way through the bottom of those scales, and then this piece in here, because it goes behind, all under here, because that's all under him, and over here and onto the ground. So that's just a really quick job at giving that extra highlight metal look to him. But yes, so that's our main worm for tonight. He's a worm dragon, white. I'll just spell it out in case anyone. It's also in the description. So WIRM worm dragon. Oh, dragon. No, drag on. Excuse me. And then this is just a quick sketch of a Drake dragon, which is just a dragon with 4 legs. So a lizard pretty much. So drakes can be any size, you know. They can be like a Komodo dragon or like a gecko or something like that. Really. But just add a lot of different spikes and things to it, I guess. Alright, so that's it for tonight. We'll do our little zoom in, the screen zoom in of our awesome little worm because he looks really nice. He's very nice. I quite like this one. Whoop. Even if I draw him a lot bigger on a bigger thing. Alright, so there's our worm dragon. I hope you've enjoyed, and tomorrow is Thursday. I'm not too sure what I'm going to get into tomorrow, but it's probably going to be good. Have a bit of a day more of a day tomorrow to have a look at some more stuff after a bit of a rest, of course. But yeah, I shall see you tomorrow at 10 p.m. in Australian time. Enjoy your nights and enjoy your mornings. See you later. Oh, again, forgot. So I've got a little Discord link in there. If you guys are interested to put your own little dragons and creations in there, just to, you know, chat, have a little dragon community, maybe even fantasy creatures, really. By all means, if the link's expired, then all you have to do is send me a quick message or a comment below. It's just let me know it's expired and I'll chuck in a new link. And also next month I'll be starting to do the 30 creatures in 30 days challenge, which I will be doing most of the creatures on stream. So I guess how to draw griffins, hippogriffs, all that sort of thing. I've tried to push all of the dragons to the weekend where I'm not streaming so that you get more of a variety of things to look at. Unless, of course, you want me to draw more dragons, and let me know what you think. And I'll try and get on to finishing Spyro this weekend. So at this stage, this is what my baby looks like. I'll show you. He is really quite nice at this stage. Where are we? Spyro. Lots of things. This is just all the stuff I've done this month. Where are we? Sketch, sketch, sketch. Spyro. So a bit of an improvement. Bit of an update on Spyro. I think it's the same as last night except for sparks. But that's how we're going at the moment. And all this talk about the new Spyro trilogy is ultra exciting. I don't actually own a PS4, but I'd still buy the game just to own it because it's a beautiful game. Beautiful series. And yes, see yous round. Don't forget to thumbs up, thumbs down, or if you like, subscribe or share or any of that sort of thing. I'm on all social medias if you're interested. And yeah, again, so see you later.